When I get into my fish farm in the morning, the first thing I do is to check my fish ponds. And checking my fish ponds, I am checking three things. First is the fish. And in the fish, I am looking at several things. One, is there dead fish on the farm? And a beginner or someone who is not into fish farming might be wondering how to see where there's a dead fish on your farm. When there's a dead fish, the fish floats on the surface of the pond. It could be cannibalism or whatever that caused the death. Once the fish is dead, it is first goes into the bottom of the fish, the bottom of the pond. After absorbing water, it will be floating on the surface. So that's what you will check. If there's no any fish floating on the surface, it means that there's no dead fish in the pond. Another thing to check about the fish is whether the fish are they okay or they have health issues. Now, how do you check that? You check the reactions of the fish. How are they behaving in the fish pond? Are they gasping for oxygen? If they are gasping for oxygen, you will realize that most of them will put their heads up there, especially catfish. They put their nose heads up like this and they are moving around. You will see some of them struggling, moving at the highest speed. Even as you are even standing, they don't mind you to just be floating their heads like that. Because at that time they are in danger. It means that the oxygen in the fish pond is very low. So they are gasping for oxygen. When you see that, the first thing you should do is make sure you try to change your water. You may use antibiotics, you may leave bitter leaves, but at that time, it is an emergency situation. Quickly change the water. A similar issue happened to me and I lost most fish in my pond. I will leave a video of that in the description, please. Now, when you haven't seen any sign of the fish struggling on the surface, they are just in the bottom, swimming here and there, then there's no problem. Then your fish, it means that their health status is okay. After I've checked the fish, the second thing I also check is the water. Is the color of the water normal? And in the normal catfish farm or fish farm in general, the water is green. And it is not deep or there's no depth. It's just green, but it's normal. So if that is green, that's okay. It might also be green and it has contamination, but we'll still come to that. So when the color of the water is changed to unusual color, it could be red or brown or whichever color, it means that there's something wrong with the water. So if you have test kit, water test kit, and you need to have a quality water test kit in your farm, I will leave a link of test kit in the description for you. Check it out. So when you have a test kit, you will test to see whether the parameter of the water is okay. If it is not, then you have to work on that. So if the water is normal and the fish, they are not struggling for oxygen, they are okay, then the third thing you will check in your farm is to look at your recirculating aquatic system if you are using one, and your aerator system if you are using one. If these two things are also working perfectly, it means that we can say the health status of your fish farm is intact. Check to see the aerator is working, is adding oxygen all right, the filtration system is working all right. Now note, my daily routine might be different from yours because of the setup of individual's farm. But there are common ones that are run among all fish farmers. So watch this video to the end. If we have a varied fish farm setups. The common ones will help you. So now when I check these three, I mean the there's no dead fish, that's the status of the fish. I will also check the water status in the pond, that's the second thing. And the third thing, I will check the status of my equipment, that's aerator and recycled aquatic system. If they are also working perfectly, then I will wash my recirculating aquatic system, that's the RAS. This, you have to do that daily to prevent the fish farm from smelling, and to also constantly remove the waste from the bin so that the waste will not come back to the pond, therefore contaminating the water, or which you are trying to prevent in the first place. So flush out the insoluble particles and the feces out from the recycled aquatic system and let it start running fresh again. So when you do that, that is, you have done most things around the fish pond. Now the third thing I'll do is to feed my fish. When I check all this and everything's all right, if I'm feeding my fish 3 times a day or 2 times a day, it means that morning is automatically part of the feeding schedule. So when I finish washing my bin, then the second thing I will have to do is to feed my fish. And before feeding the fish, we need to consider several factors. One, like I said earlier, if you check and the health status is okay, or the water status of the pond is okay, then you can feed the fish. If it is not okay, work on fixing that before talking about feeding your fish. Second, you consider the weather. Sometimes the weather condition determines the appetite of the fish. If the weather is too cold or too hot, the fish is kind of skeptical in eating. I have another video on that practically, how they react during hot and during cool time. I will leave that in the description. But what you have to note is that if the weather is okay, it is not too cold. If it's too cold, allow the sun to come out small, or allow it to come to be a bit hotter, then you feed them. But I know in the morning it wouldn't be hot for that time. It could be 8 or after 8. So if that weather condition is okay as well, then what you also have to consider before feeding is whether you are going to do something to the fish. For instance, if you're going to harvest your fish that day, or you're going to salt your fish that day, or you're going to take your fish through stress, it is not ideal to feed them that morning. Wait until you are done whatever you are going to do. Either you are going to sort or you are going to harvest some or whatever that you're going to do. After you have done that, then you allow them several hours for them to regain their strength, and then you feed them. So if you consider all this and everything is all right, then I go ahead and feed my fish. After I consider all that and everything is all right, I go ahead and feed my fish. After feeding them, and you have to do the responsive feeding method. Don't just throw the feed at once. Give them at a time and observe how they respond to the feed. If they respond very well, give them enough and leave them like that. After taking the feed, observe how they behave. Observe the water system again and wait. Then later, you check the pond again to just make sure that everything is all right. That's why fish farming, if you want to take it as commercial, it's a full-time business. Dedicate time for it. If you don't have that time, get someone to do that for you. You'll always be in the fish farm. Even though if I have somewhere to go or something to do, after doing all these checks and feeding, and observe that after post-feeding, everything is okay, you can go, but make sure that you come back. Now, if they are still fingerling and I feed them 3 times a day, then in the afternoon, around noon, I'll come, observe everything's all right, like I did in the morning, then I feed them again. Yet again, I'll give them another little feed. And then in the evening, to close for the day, check I check everything is all right. The fish, they are healthy. The water is healthy. The aerator and the filtration system is working. Everything's all right. Then I feed them for the last of the day. So this is if you're using 3 times daily feeding. If you're using 2 times, which mostly what I do, I'll feed them in the morning after I check out everything. In the afternoon, no. In the evening, I feed them again. And if I'm feeding them once a day, that is when they are grown. After 5 months, even 4 months, when you realize that they are grown, that time you can feed them once a day. And that time I feed them in the evening only. And I make sure that I give them enough feed that will keep them till the following time, the following day at that same time. Because I feed them once a day, I make sure I give them enough. And make sure you don't overfeed. If I'm saying enough, yes, overfeeding is dangerous. We'll discuss that later. But use the responsive feeding method and make sure that they get enough feed to keep them till the following day, and then you feed them again. So if everything's all right, when you just give them the feed, don't go. Let them finish eating the feed, and then you see that everything's okay. After they feed, they are behaving normal. Everything's all right. They have settled. Then you close for your day. I also do record keeping. So whatever I do, I keep it down. I write it in my book. You can use digital. First, I will use digital, and now I'm using both digital and just physical recording. Record that. If the health status of the fish, okay, everything, record it. When you feed them, the time of feed, the quantity of feed, or the amount of feed that they have taken, I record everything. This will help you tremendously in future. Because remember, it's going to you are going to run it series. So when this happens, you record everything. The success, record everything. At the end of the day, you can go through, study them, what was wrong, what was right, do adjustment, so that when you stock new fish, you know how to handle them. But if you don't do that, and that you just don't keep any record, you may not have anything to reflect back or to make reference back in future running your fish farm. So, like I mentioned earlier, my daily routine might be different from yours because of the setup. However, there are common ones. For instance, checking the status of the fish, that's the health status, where there's dead fish, check the status of the water. All these are common. And feeding, of course, every fish farmer or every fish farm, you have to feed your fish. So these ones are common. They will help you. But if you don't have recycled aquatic system or aerator system, then this part of my daily routine is not yours. Leave that aspect. But having that will also help you, especially if you don't have enough water in your farm. So if you are living closer, you can contact us to do one for you. But if you have it, it's very good because you have to keep on using the same water. You don't have to always change the water. Yes, we have been in the business. We have seen the ups and downs. We have seen the do's and don'ts. Though we are still learning. But let us say, experience is the best teacher. I have put up this experience together in the ebook as a guide for you. If you take this, it's a step by step comprehensive guide to help you from starting off your fish farm to harvest. So please, I will leave a link in the description for you to check it out. That ebook is going to help you a lot and it's going to be a future reference for you. If you haven't checked it out, please do that on the link. And please, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, let it grow. I thank you so much for watching. And my name is Abdul Aziz Issa. and this is Falco Aquaponics.